Hello, I am Flash Isaac. Today, I shall be taking you through Neco-chemistry likely questions and answers. I promise to make this class as simple as possible, as detailed as possible, so that at the end of everything, you fall in love with chemistry and you'll be able to score very high in Neco-chemistry. A1 is sure. So, I was able to draft out a whole lot of Neco-chemistry likely questions. As I solve them, I will display some of the questions on the screen, while for some, it is not necessary to display them. This is the part 1. I will release part 2, 3, 4, and part 5, so that you have the full gist. Not just objective, I will also do for Neco theory. Now, if you find this class helpful, subscribe so you don't miss out any of the videos. Don't subscribe now, don't worry. At the end of the video, then you ask yourself, is this channel worth subscribing? If yes, subscribe and tell your friends about it. Now let us begin. Glucose gives a brick red precipitate with Ferlin solution because it is dash. So this question is setting that glucose gives a brick red precipitate with Ferlin solution. Why? Now what is glucose? Glucose is a simple sugar. What is glucose? Glucose is a component of carbohydrate. Now, in Ferlin's test, why does glucose give brick red precipitate? Now, what is Ferlin's solution? Ferlin's solution is a mild oxidizing agent that contains Cu2+. Mild oxidation. And what is Ferlin test used for? It is used to test for reducing agents, and it also is used to distinguish between alkanals and alkanones. Alkanals and alkanones can be distinguished using Ferlin's solution. Don't worry, I have questions on organic chemistry, or you can check out my organic chemistry video. You have a whole lot to play with. Ferlin solution is used to test for reducing agent, and it is a mild oxidizing agent. This takes us to oxidation and reduction, redox reaction. In chemistry, you have to treat redox reaction to score high, because in objective or theory, you see questions under redox reaction. What is redox reaction? Redox reaction is a reaction in which oxidation and reduction are taking place together. In reactions, we have oxidation reaction and we have reduction reaction. What is oxidation? Oxidation reaction is addition of oxygen, which means in a reaction, when oxygen is being added, you say that is oxidation. How about reduction? Reduction is the removal of oxygen. Now, we can define oxidation and reduction in different categories. When it comes to addition of oxygen, I said that oxidation is what? Addition of oxygen, and reduction is removal of oxygen. How about hydrogen? For hydrogen, oxidation is the removal of hydrogen and reduction is the addition of hydrogen. Now, how about loss or gain of electron? Oxidation is loss of electron, reduction is gain of electron. Now, how about oxidation number? In oxidation, oxidation number increases, and for reduction, oxidation number reduces. How about addition of electronegative and electropositive elements? Oxidation is the addition of electronegative elements and removal of electropositive elements. Reduction is the removal of electronegative species and addition of electropositive species. Now, you may be wondering, how does all these things change the price of garri in the market? This is why I've written these guys out. Let's start with this. Looking at this is iron oxide, right? This is carbon monoxide. Take a look at something. From here to here, you see that oxygen has been removed. True or false? True. Oxygen is here. Now, this same ion, you've removed oxygen from it. What has happened? Removal of oxygen. What is removal of oxygen? Reduction. So here, there is reduction. Now, look at something. Here, from here to here, what has happened? We have 3 oxygen. Here, we have 3 times 2, 6 oxygen. What has happened? Oxygen added. And what is addition of oxygen? That is oxidation. What does that imply? In this reaction, oxidation and reduction, they are taking place together. Therefore, it qualifies to be referred to as redox reaction. Now, look at something else. This one that is reduced, what is it called? And this guy that is oxidized, what is it called? Because there is reduction here. It simply means this one has been reduced. Oxygen has been taken away from it. There is oxidation here. This means this guy has been oxidized. Oxygen has been added to it. Now, the one that is reduced is called oxidizing agent. In a redox reaction, the element or species that is reduced is referred to as oxidizing agent. Now, this one is oxidized. The one that is oxidized is called reducing agent. Which means oxidizing agent causes others to be oxidized, but reducing agent causes others to be reduced. So in the process, reducing agent is oxidized, oxidizing agent is reduced. So once again, oxidation redox reaction is a reaction in which oxidation and reduction are taking place simultaneously, and I already explained oxidation and reduction in different categories. In this case, addition of oxygen and removal of oxygen is our concern. So from here to here, oxygen is removed, it is reduction. From here to here, oxygen is added, it is oxidation. So this guy is reduced, this guy is oxidized. Now the one that is reduced is oxidizing agent, and the one that is oxidized is reducing agent. Now look at here. In this case, it's in terms of oxidation number. You see ions. For an ion, the oxidation number is charged on that ion. So here, oxidation number is 2. Here, oxidation number is 2. Look at here. For a neutral atom without charge, oxidation number is what? 0. Oxidation number here is 0. Oxidation number here is 0. It is neutral. Now look at zinc. Zinc from here to here, oxidation number has increased. And I told you that oxidation is increase in oxidation number. So this is oxidation. Look at copper. From 2, it went down to 0, which means there is reduction in oxidation number. So copper has been reduced. The one that is reduced is oxidizing agent, and the one that is oxidized is the reducing agent. Now look at something here. Iron 3 chloride, tin chloride, and this and this. Look at here. From here to here, what has happened? We have 3 chlorine here, not just 3, 6 chlorine here. Then here, we have 2 times 2, 4 chlorine, which means chlorine has been removed. Now, what is chlorine? Chlorine is an electronegative element or electronegative species. The removal of electronegative species is reduction. So this guy has been reduced. Now look at this. For here, we have 2 chlorine. Here, we now have 4 chlorine. What is chlorine? Electronegative element, which means chlorine has been added. And addition of electronegative species is oxidation. So therefore, I've been able to use this question to enter a whole lot of topics in chemistry. That is the aim. The aim is not just to answer one question. With one question, we answer like 20 other likely questions. Look at back to the question. Glucose gives a brick red precipitate with failing solution because it is a reducing agent. For reducing agent, to know whether this element or species is a reducing agent or this compound is a reducing agent, we use failing solution. Now what happens? Failing solution will change from blue to brick red. You know that, wow, this is a reducing agent. Therefore, glucose is a reducing sugar because it turns failing solution which is a mild oxidizing agent, which is blue, to brick red. So it is because it is a reducing agent. So option A is correct. Option B says because it is a non-electrolyte. Electrolytes are compounds that conduct electricity when they are in molten state or in solution. Look at conductors. Conductors are good. They allow electricity to pass through them easily. They have lower resistance. Remember, V is equals IR. As resistance increase or current increase, voltage increases. Voltage is what actually pushes current, but current is what kills, because current has heating effect. This is why in physics you'll be told that electricity is transmitted at a very high voltage and low current. Why? This is to reduce heating, because when you transmit electricity at high current, there will be a whole lot of heat loss in the process. So conductors, when they conduct, they don't get molten. That's how your wires, they remain the same. They conduct in their state without dissociation. Example, copper, silver, they are very good conductors. And conductors, they conduct by means of electrons, the flow of electrons. However, we have electrolytes. Electrolytes, they are compounds, they conduct only when they are in molten state or solution. Molten mean when they melted, and solution mean when they are in water or in liquid, generally. That's what it refers to as what? Electrolyte. And these electrolytes, they are studied under electrolysis, which means electrolysis is splitting by means of direct current. Once you pass direct current through an electrolyte and it decomposes, thereby conducting electricity, we say that is electrolysis. And dealing with electrolysis, we have electrolytic cell. That is a setup where electrolysis takes place. In electrolytic cell, we have the anode and cathode. For electrolytic cell, the anode is positive and the cathode is negative. However, we have another cell which is referred to as electrochemical cells. For electrochemical cell, the anode is negative and the cathode is positive. That is the difference between electrolytic and electrochemical cell. So let's use this opportunity to touch electrolysis. Now, if I tell you something like this, I say electrolysis of dilute sodium chloride, electrolysis of brine. Brine is simply a solution of concentrated sodium chloride. So NaCl is referred to as brine. Why? This is dilute sodium chloride. What happens? I told you that electrolysis takes place in electrolytic cell. We have the electrodes, anode, and we have cathode. Anode is positive for electrolytic cell, cathode is negative for electrolytic cell. Dilute sodium chloride simply means we have sodium chloride and we have so many water, which means in this case we have sodium chloride and we have water or H2O. Concentrated sodium chloride simply means we have sodium chloride, we have water, but we have just small water. That's what the concentrated solution is about. Even for acid, when you say concentrated acid, it means we have more of the acid than water. Small water, a whole lot of acid. It is concentrated, but it still contains small water. So which means this one has sodium chloride and water as well. This is concentrated. Let's leave this out. This is dilute. This dissociates because electrolytes, they dissociate in the process as they try to allow current to pass through, direct current, they dissociate, which means this dissociates or ionizes to form sodium ion as positive ion and chlorine ion as negative ion. Water as well will ionize to give you hydrogen ion and hydroxy ion. This is why water can be referred as both acid and base. It does dissociate to give you hydrogen ion and hydroxy ion. Remember, according to Arrhenius, an acid is a substance which, when dissolved in water, produces hydrogen ion as the only positive ion. Hydrogen ion is referred to as proton. And base is any substance which, when dissolves in water, produces hydroxyl ion. And according to Bronsted and Lowry, acids are proton donor, while bases are proton acceptor. So water dissociates to form hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion. And sodium here dissociates to give you Na plus and Cl minus. What happens? Let's deal with this. Since we have cathode and anode, positive ions are referred to as cations. Negative ions are referred to as anions. Therefore, since anode is positive, negative ions will migrate to the anode. So which means in the anode you have Cl minus, OH minus. In the cathode, you have positive ions, they migrate to the cathode, Na plus, H plus. Same thing happens here. Anode, cathode, Na plus and H plus goes to the cathode, negative, anode, positive. So Cl minus and OH minus, they move to the anode. Now what happens? When more than one ion migrates to the electrode, anode or cathode, there is something referred to as discharge, preferential discharge. So both of them will be discharged or deposited. The one that is discharged is also the same that is deposited. So the one that will discharge or be deposited depends on the position in the electrochemical series. For these metals or positive ions, the electrochemical series is simply popular scientists can make a zoo in thin, low, humid country more satisfactory good. Which means potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron, and so on. This is preferential discharge. The ones lower will be preferentially discharged. So therefore, in this place, since hydrogen is lower in the series, hydrogen will be discharged. Then in this case, since OH is lower than chlorine in the series of electronegative elements or negative ion, OH minus will be deposited, H plus will be deposited. But for concentrated sodium chloride, remember, when it comes to preferential discharge, it is as a result of three factors. Three factors affect preferential discharge. One, position in the series. So according to position in the series, these guys are being discharged. And another one is concentration. The more concentrated you are, the easier it is for you to be deposited. Which means this guy is lower in the series than Cl minus. But because of concentration, Cl minus will be deposited instead of OH minus. So that is the difference between electrolysis of brine, conc sodium chloride, and electrolysis of dilute sodium chloride. At the anode, OH is deposited here. At the anode, chlorine is deposited because of concentration. And the third factor that determines discharge is the nature of the electrode. Some electrode, they will love some ions. They have affinity. For example, if you have mercury electrode, it will attach sodium to itself to form sodium and mangan. But when you are using inert electrode, those ones don't take part in the reaction. And here, the gap between sodium and hydrogen ion is very wide, which means concentration will not take effect. Concentration only happens when the distance is low. Let's say this and this now, since they are very close, concentration will make sodium to be deposited instead of magnesium, even as much as sodium is higher. But since the distance between sodium and hydrogen is far, concentration will not work for the positive ion, which means hydrogen ion will be discharged. At the end of the electrolysis of dilute sodium chloride, this is the cathode equation, this is the anode half equation. Remember, cryo, in cathode, reduction takes place. In anode, oxidation takes place, which means oxidation and reduction is still being treated under electrolysis. Now look at something. I said electrolytes, they are compounds or substances that allow the flow of electricity or direct current when they are in molten state or when they are in solution. Now when they are in solution, it means there is water. So and water contains hydrogen ion or hydrogen ion. It is being added. But when they are in molten state, there is no water, they just met, which means molten sodium fluoride will simply contain only sodium ion and only chlorine ion. There is no water. So sodium ion will migrate to the cathode and chlorine ion will migrate to the anode. Therefore, there is only one ion. We won't be talking about preferential discharge. This takes us to the next question. Which of the following species correctly represents an ion M with 13 protons and 10 electrons? That is the question. So this is the atom. It forms an ion, and this atom has 13 protons and 10 electrons. What is ion? Ion is simply an atom that possesses electric charge. If I give you sodium, this is sodium atom. If I say Na plus, this is no longer an atom. This is an ion. Why? It has given out electrons. So once an atom donates electrons or receive electrons, it forms ion. Now, if I give you Fe3 plus, this is ion, right? Now, 3 plus simply means it has given out 3 electrons. If I give you Cl, this is chlorine atom. Cl minus, this is chlorine ion. Minus is the same thing as -1. If it were -2 or -3, you see 2 minus and 3 minus respectively. So minus simply means gain. So in this case, chlorine has gained 1 electron. If I give you O2 minus, this is oxygen ion. Oxygen that has received 2 electrons. Now back to the topic. It says this guy has 13 protons. What is proton? Proton is atomic number. And what is mass? Mass number is simply proton plus neutron. This is why the mass of an atom is concentrated in the nucleus. If this atom has 13 protons and 10 electrons, it's obvious that it is not a neutral atom. For a neutral atom, something like this, number of proton is equals electron. For this guy, the number of proton is equals the number of electron. For this guy, the number of proton is equals the number of electron. But for ion, this ion and even hydrogen ion, the number of proton is not equals electron. In fact, for hydrogen ion has 1 proton and 1 electron. 1 proton, 1 electron. So once this hydrogen ion loses electron, it doesn't even have electron again. It becomes a proton. This is why hydrogen ion is also referred to as proton. So number of proton is supposed to be number of electron. But now the number of proton here is 13, electron is 10. What has happened? It simply implies that this guy has lost 3 electrons. This is what makes it not to be 13 again. So if it has lost 3, what is electron loss? Or what happens when an element loses electron? It becomes positive. So if M has lost 3 electrons, it simply means that it is 3 plus, M3 plus. That is the ion that will be formed. Ion formed by an atom which has lost 3 electrons is M3 plus. What if it had gained 3 electrons? If it had gained electrons, this means that we have 13 protons, electron would have been 16, and here would have been 3 minus. So this is ion formed by an atom which has 13 protons and 16 electrons. It has gained 3 electrons to have a negative charge of 3. This guy has gained 1 electron. This has lost 3 electrons, lost 1 electron, lost 1 electron, gained 1 electron. So I hope you found that explanation helpful. Cis-12, carbon 613, and carbon 614 can be described as dash. Looking at this species, we have carbon, we have another carbon, and we have another carbon. What's the difference between them? The 3 carbons, they have the same atomic number, or they have the same number of protons. However, their masses differ. This is what I mean. If you are given an element like this, and you have 11 here, let's say 23 here, for example, this number at the bottom is the atomic number, it is the number of proton. And since there is no charge plus or minus, it simply means that this atom also has 11 electrons, because for a neutral atom, the number of protons is equal to the number of electrons, and the number at the top represents the atomic mass. So it has atomic number of 11 and 23. But in this case, we have the same carbon. It has the same atomic number, but they have different mass number. Is this against what Darting said? According to Darting's atomic theory, atoms of the same element, they are exactly alike. They have the same physical properties and everything. How come atoms of the same element here with the same atomic number, they have different mass number? What has happened? A phenomenon referred to as isotopy has occurred. So isotopy is when atoms with the same atomic number, they now have different mass number. We say that they are isotopes, which means all these are carbon isotopes. And there's an option that says isomers. Isomers are molecules that have the same molecular formula but different arrangement. In organic chemistry, you see an atom, they'll tell you, I'm giving an example. Let's say C3H7OH. Anything. I have not verified this. With this guy now, you can draw different arrangement. This OH can be in different position. The structure can vary. So you now form isomers, the same molecular formula, the same number of, let's say, carbon, the same number of hydrogen, the same number of oxygen, but different arrangement, different configuration. That is isomerism. And okay, another one says isotones. Isotones are atomic species that share the same number of neutrons. Yes, they have different atomic number, different mass number, but they have the same number of protons. Let's see something. Okay, I have one here, O816 and 715 and C614. This is oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon. Remember, atomic mass is equals proton plus neutron, right? Which means neutron is equals mass minus proton. And proton is the atomic number. In this case, mass is 16 and proton is 8. So therefore, neutron is 16 minus 8. That should give you 8, right? How about this? Neutron is 15 minus 7. 15 minus 7 is 8. Carbon, 14 minus 6 is 8. So they have the same number of neutrons. So they are referred to as isotones. Isotones. So allotropy is a phenomenon where a substance exists in different forms under the same physical condition. For example, under the same physical state or physical condition, carbon exists as both diamond and graphite. In that case, we say that these guys are the allotropes of carbon and they have different properties. For example, carbon exists as diamond and graphite. Diamond is one of the hardest substances known, while graphite is one of the softest substances known. You see? So they have different properties entirely. And the next question says, fats are classified as dash. Fats are esters. Fats and oils are both esters. Esters are alkanoids. And esterification is formed when alkanol reacts with alkanoic acid, you form esters. If 0.2 grams of a salt is required to saturate 200 cm³ of water at room temperature, what is the solubility of the salt? Now we have mass of the salt to be 0.2 grams. And we have volume to be 200 cm³. Solubility. Now looking at this question carefully, all the answers are in gram per dm³. Normally, solubility is in moles per dm³. And what is solubility? Solubility is equals number of moles times 1000 over volume. So this is solubility in moles per dm³. Solubility in moles per dm³ is number of moles times 1000 over volume. In other words, it is number of moles is mass over molar mass. It is simply mass over molar mass times 1000 over volume. So mass times 1000 over molar mass times volume is solubility in moles per dm cube. But how about in grams per dm cube? Solubility in grams per dm cube is simply solubility in mole per dm cube times molar mass. When you multiply solubility in grams per dm cube by molar mass, you get solubility in moles per dm cube. So which means once you multiply this one by molar mass, m 1000 over big M times V. This is mass, this is molar mass, times molar mass. M cancels M. So solubility in grams per dm cube is equals mass times 1000 over volume. And this is simply mass is 0.2 grams times 1000 over volume is 200 cm cube. So this is your solubility in grams per dm cube. A radioactive solid is best stored in dash: A, in a box lined with lead; B, under paraffin oil; C, under ultraviolet light; and D, in a cool dark cupboard. Radioactive solid radioactivity is the spontaneous disintegration of the nucleus of an element to emit radiation. After radioactivity, you see alpha particles, beta particles, and gamma rays being emitted. Now, alpha particles can be stopped by a thin paper. Beta particles can be stopped by aluminum foil, while gamma rays can be stopped by lead block. Gamma rays, they have the highest penetrating power. Alpha particle is simply a helium nucleus. Once in a reaction, this guy is giving off, you say that alpha particle has been emitted. But beta particle is fast moving electrons. So when beta particle is emitted, atomic number increases by 1 and the mass remains constant. Since gamma rays, they are just rays and they have the highest penetrating power, to store a radioactive solid, you simply need to put it in a box lined with lead, so that if it is gamma ray, it can be stopped by lead block. Gamma ray can only be stopped by lead block. So lead block will prevent the rays from going out. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, NECO candidates, this is the end of Chemistry Likely Questions and Answers with Flash Isaac Part 1. If you find this helpful, subscribe. I'll share a link to the Part 2 below. Thank you. Enjoy.